Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dr. Sabrina Chen See, and I'm here to talk to you about optimal alignment to supercharge our health. Now, everybody here coming to the wellness show is looking to try to improve their health, right? I'm not going to be talking to you about any supplements. I'm not going to talk to you about things to buy in order to supercharge your health. I'm going to talk about things that you can do yourself at home and every day so that you can be healthier, stronger, and younger. Now, does anybody here want to feel younger than they are? Yeah. Yeah? Great. I want to help you with that. Now, how you feel is one part. How you look is another part as well. And I'm going to actually help you look younger too. Does anybody here want to look younger too? Yeah. Great. I've got Regan here. She is my helper today. And she is going to help me demonstrate how to look younger, how to feel younger, and how to do the opposite. Only for demonstration purposes, because we don't actually want to be the opposite. Nobody else wants to actually look older than they are or feel older than they are, right? Except for maybe some teenagers and maybe some kids. And that's where the problem starts. Because a lot of teenagers, they don't want to be thought of as kids. They want to be thought of as adults. And what are two words that teenagers use to try to show how they're so much more mature than they are? There's two words. One of them is whatever and so what. So two phrases. And what does a person look like? What does a teenager look like when they want to say whatever? They're kind of doing kind of this kind of thing, right? So what? I don't care. I don't care if I'm slouching. I don't care if I look lazy. I don't care about this class. I don't care what the teacher has to say. Does that sound a little familiar? And so this is actually a sign of disrespect, isn't it? When someone stands like this and kind of puts a hand on the shoulder and I don't care what you say. But it does make you look older when they do this. And the reason where it comes from is when you talk about somebody, when we talk about someone who's really old, like late 90s, 80s, some people in their late 70s, what kind of silhouette do you think you see? Show us an older senior. Yes, hunched over, maybe even with a cane, what we call a dowager's hump. I know it's a derogatory term, but the reason why they call old ladies dowagers is because women are the only ones that live long enough to form that kind of hump. A lot of men don't make it that old. This is what's going to age you. And this dowager's hump, the women that we see that have this kind of hump in their 80s and 90s, do you think they looked that way when they were 60? They were upright, really, really nice and tall and strong looking, right? How about when they were 50? Same thing. So I was kind of surprised when I graduated from chiropractic college, and it was the year 2000, and I started taking care of lots of people, and I started seeing this hump, not quite that much, like this, in people who are only 30, 32, 28 years old. They already started developing that hump. How can that be? It's from this. Sitting in front of the computer, typing, maybe reading a lot, getting a little bit lazy about getting up and moving around. But what's happened, I'll fast forward 15 years to now, I'm seeing this happening in people who are 12 and 11. And where is that coming from? Do you have your phone with you?
No, but I'll demonstrate.
How many teenagers do you see like this? Do you know that this is starting younger and younger? Do you know that there are games on iPads for toddlers? Do you know that Fisher-Price makes a baby rocker with a holder for an iPad? They are doing that now. They're trying to create this hump earlier and earlier and earlier. And I'm here to help make sure that that's not happening to you, and that you can spread the word so that's not happening to your children or your grandchildren. How does that sound? So that's the first thing we're going to do. The reason why it's so important that we don't take on this posture, even if it's temporary, is because this affects not only how you look, but also how your body works. When you're in this kind of position, and actually everybody try that. Hunch over. Pretend you're about 40 years older than you are, okay? Can you take a deep breath in? Not really. And when you don't, you can relax. I don't want you to actually develop health problems from this demonstration. When you can't take that oxygen in, guess what happens to the oxygen that's already in your body? It breaks down. And oxygen that breaks down into free radicals. Now, who here has heard about what free radicals can do to your body? Is that a familiar term to everybody? Yeah, free radicals is responsible for premature aging, because what it does is it breaks down the cells in your body. So when you're in this position, not only do you look older, but you're actually going to get older faster. And we don't want that, especially not for Regan, because she's still in her 20s. Now, the other thing that happens when you have poor posture is it actually makes it easier for you to get injured. Can you take off one shoe, please?
Yes.
Regan is going to demonstrate what it's like to have uneven posture by having one leg shorter than the other. Okay? It was actually more obvious yesterday when she wore these like high heels, but today she's not wearing high heels. But you can see what's happening when one leg is higher than the other. Do you think she's more tippy? She is more tippy. So that would actually make it easier for her to trip and fall. The other thing that happens when the one leg is shorter than the other is that it affects how she walks and how she runs. Now, can you demonstrate running with one shoe on and one shoe off? Doesn't look really good. Do you think it maybe might affect her joints, maybe cause problems in the hip and the knee and the foot? Definitely. How high are your boots? This is only a 1/4 inch difference, and that's affecting the way she walks. Believe it or not, when I check people's alignment, I measure the length of their legs as well. 1/4 difference is very, very common. I even see people with 1/2 inch difference. I see some people with 3/4 of an inch difference, even 1 inch difference. So for those of you who are all metric and Canadian, that's 2 centimeters. That's a huge difference side to side. Now, when we're talking about injuries, it's more to it than energy balance and how your weight distribution. It also affects your nerves, because your nerves come from between the bones of your spine. There's nerves for sensory, so feeling hot, cold, pain, joint position. There's nerves they're motor nerves that tell your muscles what to do. And then there's nerves that are going to go to your organs. The combination of these nerves are very important for reflexes and agility. Because say if Regan was running and she comes and runs over here, it's not quite even. And so if it's not even, you'll need to actually change your muscles so that you don't trip and fall because the ground is uneven. And that gets, you have a problem with that if your posture isn't good. The other thing that happens when you're in this kind of posture, and a lot of kids that are so used to texting like this, is they tend to look down. And when you look down, how good is her peripheral vision? Do you think she can see what I'm doing over here?
No, I can't.
She can't see anything. But look up straight ahead. Can you see my fan, what I'm doing? Yeah, peripheral vision goes down. What if you were an athlete? An athlete playing football. There's projectile balls going around. There was a ball that came behind us, wasn't there?
Yeah.
There's projectile balls, but in football there's also projectile people, aren't there? There's people that are running and trying to tackle you. And if your peripheral vision is not very good, how well will you see those things coming at you so that you can react and get out of the way? Not so good. And this is why, with especially with young people now playing contact sports, there are more kids getting injured. They're lopsided, their center of gravity is off, their joints are getting injured, their peripheral vision is down. And one more thing, do you think it takes more muscles to sit up straight or to slouch? To sit up straight, you use more muscles this way. And how about holding your head up versus letting it hang? What takes more muscles? Getting it up, keeping it up. So these kids that are like this all the time, they have weaker neck muscles than their parents who are outside running around climbing trees and riding their bikes. So these kids also have weak muscles. They've got projectiles coming at them. They're uneven and their reflexes are not so good. What happens is they get injured more often and they get injured worse. So that's why there's a big rise in concussions now, way more than there was a generation ago and 2 generations ago. So we've talked about looking old and we've talked about injuries. Now let's talk about how to have more energy. Have more energy and think clearer. Would anybody like to know about that? Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna try this again. Now everybody hunch over and take 3 breaths. That's quite tiring when you do that, isn't it? Now I want you to sit up straight, nice and tall. And now take 3 deep breaths. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now, do you have more energy now that you've taken some 3 big breaths? That's that oxygenation. When that oxygen goes through your body, that can go to all of the cells and fill your lungs and go to all of your cells. And when your cells get oxygen, then they have energy to do work. So your muscles can be stronger, your blood can flow better, your organs can work better, but also your brain. Your brain needs oxygen too. And so that's why in a stuffy room, people keep falling asleep. It's because there's not enough oxygen in the air. Well, you might as well be in a stuffy room because you're getting the same amount of oxygen in. So we want to do this so you can think clearer. And when you think clearer, you can be more proactive instead of reactive. And proactive people are the ones who live longer because they can plan their day better and they make better use of their day and they get more accomplished. So that's one of the things that we want for you. Now, does anybody here have osteoarthritis or osteoporosis? One person, 2 people? Now, does anybody here want to prevent osteoarthritis or osteoporosis? Okay, only some of you. Now, do you know where osteoporosis and osteoarthritis come from? Now, what most people hear is that it's part of aging. It just happens. The older you get, you're going to have it, and there's really nothing you can do about it because we can't turn back time. Well, I'll tell you how to turn back time, because time is a human concept. And when we talk about healing and talking about the body, we're talking about something really special. Time is linear, as in it's always going forward. But in our bodies are not linear. Our bodies are self-regenerating, self-healing, self-maintaining, which means that unlike cars, we're not supposed to have to throw out different parts every so many number of years. You're not supposed to have to throw out your brake pads. You're not supposed to replace your knees every 30 years. That's not the way it works. Our knees are supposed to last our entire life. Same with our heart, same with our stomach, same with our kidneys. And but that only happens if you take care of it the right way, right from the beginning. Arthritis is what happens. So I'm going to show you osteoarthritis, specifically in the spine because, well, I have a spine here. This is the lumbar spine back here. And Regan's going to demonstrate what happens if you have poor posture, just bending to the side. Is her spine straight now? I'm going to turn a little bit so that people here can see. Yeah, it's not straight anymore. So I'll show you on the big spine. This is not straight anymore. This is a joint injury that we call a subluxation. Now, when the joint gets injured like this, then it's going to damage the bone. And the bone's going to respond by creating more bone as scar tissue. And the scar tissue bone that grows over here is what we call bone spurs. If you want to know the scientific word, it's called osteophytes. Okay, they grow from where you carry the most weight. And right now this bone's carrying the weight over here. Now where does that calcium come from to form those bone spurs? It comes from your blood. So the more calcium you take in, you can build more bone spurs. So what happens if you've been diagnosed with osteoporosis and the doctor tells you to take Fosamax and take high doses of calcium? Is it going to go to the weaker side here, or is it going to go to the side with the bone spurs? It actually goes to the bone spurs, and it makes bone spurs bigger. When you don't have enough calcium in your blood, your body's actually going to take calcium from the storage of calcium, which is in your bone. So if this area is not carrying as much weight as this side, the body's going to take the calcium from this side and put it over to the other side. Your body does this remodeling throughout your entire lifetime as long as you are alive, which means your bones can change shape throughout your entire life. So if we want to change this, well, we're going to have to change the conditions. So if we want calcium to be deposited over here, we need to bring the bones back to the way they should be so that calcium is put over here again, and the body will automatically remove it from the side that it's no longer needed. So it is actually possible, and we've seen it in practice, where osteoarthritis and bone spurs can actually reduce, and osteoporosis can reduce. We see some people who are 60 years old who have a better looking spine than when they were 30 years old. It's possible. Now, if you are already 95 years old, there's not really enough time to do that change, because that might take 50 years to do that. And it's possible to live to 140, but I can't guarantee it for anyone in particular. So that's osteoporosis and osteoarthritis. On a lighter note, would anybody like to be better looking? You would? Okay. We can show people how to have breast enlargement and a tummy tuck without any surgery. So Regan here, just stand up north. Who would say that Regan is pretty? I think she's pretty. Now, I got a little secret. Regan's a personal trainer. She doesn't actually know how to slouch, so I got to help her out here. But this is how normal people who lead a mediocre kind of life stand. They kind of have their belly sticking out and their head hanging down. And it might have started in girls. It might have started when they were a teenager and starting to develop breasts, and they're kind of shy about it, so they kind of want to hide it. Which, when you're a teenager, you don't think about any long-term effects, but you don't stay a teenager forever. When you get to be an adult, you actually shouldn't be afraid of for a woman, you shouldn't be afraid of having breasts. So if she were just to unhunch that, look at that. She's already gone up 2 cup sizes. Now, from this slouching part, do you know how many people it looks like they have a belly here? Even skinny people might have a belly hanging out. Well, we're going to make sure that she doesn't have a belly hanging out. Now, back in the 1950s and before that, a lot of women wore corsets, right? And so they actually tighten it all up, tighten up really tight. Now, if anyone's got a corset on, can they slouch? They can't, because it's too hard, especially with the boning in it. You can't slouch. So by default, they had to stand up tall. What else happened in the 1950s? Wasn't that when the Korean War was going on? I'm a little fuzzy on that. It's a bit before my time. Now, how many men during the time of the Korean War were drafted in the army? A lot. And guess what's the first lesson that they learned when they go to boot camp? Is how to stand up tall. If you slouch one bit, they take a whip. No slouching, up tall. Back then, it was normal to stand up tall and straight. Now people have gotten lazy, and the lazier got, the fatter people look, even if they aren't heavier. But you add obesity on top of that, then they look even bigger. So when you actually stand up tall, guess what she's doing right now? She's doing core exercises. The more you hold yourself up tall and hold your belly in tight, you are actually working your core. Now, if you want to enhance it, then you get one of these things over here, these exercise machines, and then like right behind us, Flame and Fitness. Then you can get even stronger core. And when you have a stronger core, you don't have to think about standing up straight because it comes easy to you. We want it to become easy for you. It sounds a little vain, but it's important. The more you take care of yourself, the better you look. And the better you look is a reflection of what's going on inside. But more importantly is what's going on inside, what's going on with your health. I told you about these 3 different kinds of nerves that come through your spine. I didn't tell you where they go to. They actually go to everywhere in your body. They go to your skin, they go to your organs, they go to your muscles, they go to your joints, they control all of your hormones, your glands, everything. And so when you have poor posture and subluxation, sometimes it might touch the pain nerve, a sensory nerve, and you'll feel it. Sometimes you don't. Maybe it goes to a motor nerve, and then your muscles are slower to respond. And how might that affect you? Well, if your muscles don't respond fast enough, that'll affect your reflexes, and you might trip easier and fall down. It might mean that your big toe doesn't lift up. This was my problem when I was little. I didn't know it, but my right big toe did not lift up as much as it was supposed to, okay? You don't think about this, you take it for granted, but when you are stepping, you are just expecting your big toe to go up high enough. And you don't know that there's a problem, or I didn't know there was a problem, except that if there was a crack in the sidewalk, my toe would get stuck in that crack in the sidewalk and I'd come tripping down. So I was told by my family doctor when I was 12 years old, he looked at me and my knees with all of the scars and scabs on, and he says, "No beauty pageants for you." Good thing I wasn't on my list, my bucket list in the first place. But more importantly is the stuff that you won't know about the ones that go to your organs. When we talk about organs and organ systems, there are some that get affected earlier than others. The ones that are under the most stress and the ones that are not absolutely vital for right now. So a good sign that someone has problem with their nervous system, or an earlier sign, is one, getting sick easily. Your immune system is always under attack, and if it's not working 100% or at least 80%, then you're more prone to getting sick than other people. And sick doesn't necessarily mean colds and flus. It might show up as hypersensitivity, like allergies. It might show up as asthma. Another thing that can happen, another organ system that gets involved early on would be your reproductive system. Because your reproductive system is not for right now, unless you're a teenager going through puberty. It's usually for the next generation. So if your body is under stress, is it going to shut down your heart, or is it going to shut down your menstruation? It's going to keep your heart going at all costs, and it's going to tell other things to shut down first. In my practice, when females come into the office, one question that I ask everybody is, how is your period? Or if you're in menopause, how's that going? Because guess what? 70% of women have some kind of issue going on. That is a very, very large number. And I don't specifically ask this of the men, but maybe I should. But there is a reason why Viagra is selling so much. It's because men too are also vulnerable to this. Now, if you want to know what part of your spine is specifically involved with the reproductive system, there's three areas that are mainly involved. One over here. And so when people sit at a desk or slouch on a sofa, help me out here. If they slouch like this, okay, do you know people who slouch like this? There's an easy reason why. Sometimes the sofa is too deep and their legs are not long enough. So to reach the back of the sofa, they're actually leaning back, and that puts a lot of stress over here. That affects your reproductive system. The other areas involved is down here and up at the top. Now, sleep apnea is another thing that's a big issue going on. We're talking about your lungs. That's the upper back over here. And this happens a lot when people sit like this. Now, do you see a lot of people sitting like this? Guess what? They're the ones that are prone to sleep apnea. We don't want to have people put these CPAP machines on. I know there's somewhere down in the hall where you can sign up for a sleep apnea test. I would like for you to not need one, because if you go back 10 years ago, the only people that they considered for that CPAP machine were people who were vastly overweight. But if you ask them, their clientele of people buying CPAP machines, it's not just overweight people that are getting this. And it's not only older people, it's also younger people and slim people too that are having trouble breathing. And it has a lot to do with this. Now, but I'm really here to help you change that, okay? So that you don't have to be part of any of those statistics. And when we talk about trying to help you change your posture, it helps first to know what your posture is. I've got a great idea for a new t-shirt. A new t-shirt is going to have the spine, but it's also going to have a big red line here and a big red line here. So when you're walking around, people can see, do you have one shoulder higher than the other? If you have one hip higher than the other. It's kind of nice when some of our patients come into their office and they have horizontal stripes on their shirt. It makes it very easy for me to see if they're crooked or not. That's one thing. Another thing that we do is we take a look when you're lying down, is one leg shorter than the other. We also look from the side, and you can actually do this yourself. Be a little bit vain, okay? Can you do that? Can you be a little bit vain for me? And look at yourself every time you pass a mirror or a clean glass. I want you to look out of the corner of your eye and see. Now stand up straight. Is your ear directly over your shoulder? Is your shoulder directly over the seam of your pants? Is the seam of your pants right in front of your ankle? That is normal posture. So every time if you walk by and you notice that your head is forward, then use that as a cue. Oh, I gotta pull it back. Or if your shoulders are rounded forward, oh, I gotta pull it back. If you can do that, that will help. Now, if it hurts for you to do that, that doesn't feel good. That's a really good sign that you need to come see a chiropractor so that we can make sure that if there's any knots in your spine, anywhere where it's locked up, that we can unlock it so that it actually feels more comfortable to be upright than to slouch. And that's what happens with our patients. They notice after they are getting regular care, their head feels lighter, their body feels lighter, and it actually feels better to be upright than it is to slouch, because this is normal and this is good. This is common. Never confuse common with good, because they're not the same thing. Otherwise, in the US, being 50 pounds overweight is normal, because it's common, but it's not good. At the front desk over there, I have a handout that explains everything that I just said. There's also an envelope there in case you want to get a hold of us to ask me any more questions. Our booth is just around the corner here, number 206. You can just follow the balloon spine and you'll find us very easily. We're doing free posture checks, and in honor of Chinese New Year, everyone who gets a posture check will also get a red envelope with perhaps lucky money, but also otherwise a different prize. I want to thank you so much for your attention. The next group will be coming to set up, and I'll be here to answer any more questions. Thank you.